All right, so what's the very latest that you've heard after the initial reports about the Knicks listening to offers for Kristaps Porzingis?
So, yeah, several teams have been calling in recent days, and Kristaps, since skipping that exit meeting, hasn't heard from team management or head coach Jeff Hornacek, so there's been no communication there. He's frustrated. His guys are frustrated. I spoke with Kristaps' brother, Giannis Porzingis, and he says that, despite how the Knicks are treating their players, Chris wants to remain in New York. He wants to be a Knick. He loves this city. He loves the fans. And if he were to be traded, he would play out his contract as a free agent. And that, to me, is a signal to any teams calling the Knicks that if you want Chris, you have to get assurances through us that he is going to sign with you guys long term. I think that was the purpose of that statement from Giannis. And just a bit of a mess right now, because if you're the Knicks and you're not immediately hanging up when teams call about a Kristaps Porzingis trade, it's going to get out there, and the perception is going to be that you are open to trading Kristaps Porzingis, and I don't think that's going to fly well with the majority of your fan base.
That's what bothers me, though, Bagels, is the first couple things you just said. He loves the city, and he loves the fan base. We all know he doesn't love the direction of the team. I don't care how much you love the city and how much you love the fan base. If you don't feel like you like the way the team is going or the style of play that this team is trying to essentially have the triangle, then, are you ever going to be happy? That's my biggest concern with this.
Well, yeah, I think that's the bigger issue here is where things are going under team leadership, and you're 100% right, Rick. The issues there are bigger than, liking the city and liking the fan base, because those don't seem to be going away, because Phil Jackson, is committed to playing a certain system, the triangle, and, there are more issues than just system. It's how things have kind of unfolded the last 2 years that Kristaps Porzingis has been here, that he's had issues with, the drama surrounding this team off the court, on the court, that he's had issues with, the changes in style on the fly multiple times last season. He's had issues with that. So it's more than just the triangle. But those are issues that I think may not be going anywhere as long as Phil is here, Rick. So you make a great point about the bigger beef here that Kristaps has, and whether that can actually be resolved. But I think, it's telling that the Knicks haven't gotten on a plane and flown over to Latvia and sat down with Chris and gotten in a room with them and tried to iron things out. That, to me, is a bit strange.
Bagels, let me ask you this question. As we get closer to the draft, people always assume that there's going to be draft picks as a part of compensation for any trade that would take place. What would it take in return for the Knicks to execute a trade with KP?
You would think that you would need either multiple future first-round picks or a first-round pick in this draft and some future first-round picks, or a player who, similar to Porzingis, is on either a rookie deal or a long-term deal that's well under market value, a young, good player that you can control for several years to come. I think those are the only conditions in which you consider trading a Kristaps Porzingis, and those are rare conditions for trades these days. But I do think that where Kristaps is in his career, obviously has so much upside, and obviously he's on that rookie deal. So any team that does deal for him would have the opportunity to extend him and control him for several years to come if he's amenable to that. He is such a valuable piece on the trade market that I think you wouldn't even listen to any offer that didn't include multiple first-round picks and a player who's under contract for several years to come.
Bagels, from what you've gotten so far today in the last couple of days and the people you've talked to, give me a percentage on something like this actually happening. Because there's a part of me that feels like this is, just seeing, testing the waters, getting just a value for it, and, less of being like real aggressive and trying to actually make a move. Put your percentage on what you think could happen by draft night.
I think it's probably 40, 60, maybe 35, 65 that a move actually comes to fruition.
That's higher than I thought.
Yeah, I would put it there only because, from what I've been told, and this is, confirming a report from the Vertical, several teams, and there's been a flurry of phone calls last night and today to the Knicks about Kristaps Porzingis. And, that tells me that in the conversations that are being had, they're not Phil Jackson shooing teams away and saying, no, nothing is on the table. These are conversations where there's a significant back and forth. because, teams talk to each other. So if one team hears from the Knicks and says, hey, they're talking about possibly trading Porzingis, other teams are going to pick up the phone, call the Knicks, and see what's going on. So that tells me that, the Knicks haven't ruled this out, and I've heard from at least one team that's talked to the Knicks that said they are not ruling it out at this point. So until you rule it out, I would put it at 30-35% that something happens, because there are valuable packages that teams can put together in a trade for Kristaps Porzingis.